Today we're talking about why the INFJ thrives in a niche. And when I'm talking about a niche, I'm not talking about it has to be something very extreme. You have to go into a career field that nobody else does. What I'm talking about is that every single time you have to make a decision in your life when it comes to how do I want to live my life? What kind of career choice do I want to have? When I'm within a certain company, what kind of direction will I choose? Will I choose the more general one? Or will I choose one that is the road less traveled? Because we as INFJs have a unique opportunity that is based on our cognitive functions that allows us to find the path of least resistance. And today we're going to talk about how you can utilize that gift. Before we get started, remember, if you want some more guidance into how to build that unique INFJ Epic Life of yours, then get the free poster on the 5 pillars to an INFJ Epic Life. And if you want to take it to the next level, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide. All the information you find in the links in the description. We as INFJs have a unique way of looking at the world, right? We're one of 16 personality types. Every single type has a different way of looking at it, and there's not like one that's more special than the other ones. It's just that the INFJ one is more rare. So therefore, you don't have many role models that show you, okay, that's the way to go. If you were an ISTJ or an ISFJ, there are way more examples out there. And so it is easier for those types to just follow what has been shown to them and find their path of least resistance. For us INFJs, for the longest time, it really was trial and error because we didn't have those examples. We didn't have those role models. Thankfully, our community is growing and we see more and more, examples of how to act in certain situations that help us to determine what makes sense for me. And we as INFJs have the unique trait of introvert intuition as our first function. This is a pattern building machine. It's something that I'm so excited about. I'm so happy that I am this type because it allowed me to have so much fun with it, right? Of course, if I was another type, I would love that. Like my husband is an ISTJ, like he just thrives in his SI world, nothing that would ever interest me. And same thing here, we find our common ground, on other stuff, but those things, like the first function, is something that is so uniquely you, and it's something that is so privately for you, particularly for types who are introverts and who have a world that they can live in. It's something that helps us to operate our environment with. So the way NI works, and particularly in combination with TI, our third function, is that we pick up information from our environment and then create a system around it. And we are particularly good at doing this in a field with few information. Like you will see this in contrast to, let's say, SI. SI is all about, I know all the details. I'm so good at getting everything checked out. Like I know all the details over here, all the details over there. And because I know this mass of details, I can create a very accurate picture that will help me to move forward. That is not what we do. What we do is that we, probably won't be able to gather all this information. We won't be able to keep it in our mind, but we're good at knowing, okay, I have information A, B, and C. And so therefore, there are only a couple of conclusions that would make sense from this situation. So how does that play out? Well, it plays out in a way of, let's say we're talking about your job, that you're more likely to be better than everybody else in fields that aren't developed yet, where you have to create a new system, where you don't have to play by rules that have already been established, but in a field where you can create the rules, where you can say, okay, these are the things that I already see. There is no system here yet, but I can create a system because I know A in combination with B and C makes sense in this way. It's one possibility. I'm not saying it's the only one, but it's one that I can, take up, I can understand, and I can make it logical. That thing will be easier for you than for most other types. So when I'm talking about choose the path of least resistance, I'm talking about choose fields in your career, choose fields in your personal life, as in where am I going to live, how I'm going to set up my life. And the easiest way, of course, is in a field where you're being productive. It may be your vocation or your career, any of those things, where you have the opportunity to play by your own rules. Because in the end, if you're not playing in a field that makes sense for you, you're always going to think that there's something wrong with you. If you are surrounded by people who are very detail oriented and you're all doing work that requires you to be detail oriented, you're always going to fall short. You will have to do twice the work everybody else is doing just to keep up. But if you're in a field where you have to come up with a solution that hasn't existed yet, and you have to make sense of it, you have to make meaning out of it, you have to make other people understand where you're coming from, right? You will have a big advantage. And that's why it's so important for us to choose a niche. That's why it's better for us to be in a place where not so many people are at, where you're creating something new, where you can create something that isn't set in stone. So let's say a very, hands-on example would be, are you going to work for a firm that has very strict rules, where it's all about structure, where it's all about hierarchy, where it's you have to do those steps A, B, and C, D, one after the other. You don't have any wiggle room in order to move forward? Or are you going to work at a startup where you don't have that many rules, where you create the rules, where you have the freedom to create something that hasn't existed yet, but guess what? You also have the burden for it. So for most INFJs, they would say, okay, well, isn't it obvious what I would choose? That I would choose the place where I don't have to follow so many rules? Isn't that like the easiest for everybody? And that's the reason why nobody takes it, because you don't have that many chances there, or the security isn't there. No, that's not the reason. That's not the reason why most people don't start their own business or go into something esoteric. I mean, think about it. We INFJs tend to do things that are out of the box to begin with. But it really is that those things that seem so easy for you aren't easy for other types. But we are so reluctant to understanding this that it sort of feels like, okay, if it was that easy, why isn't everybody doing it? They're not doing it because it's not easy for them, but it might be easy for you. So if you look forward in your life and you say, okay, what are my next steps? And this is something where you can use the pillars from the poster, for example. You can say, okay, when it comes to, getting my physical energy up, do I have to do everything that everybody else does? Or can I think of ways that will make me the best version of myself? When it comes to my vocation, when it comes to my relationships, what kind of choices can I make that actually put me in a unique position where I don't do things like everybody else does, because this is probably not the way that's going to be easiest for me? What would be the easiest thing for me? What would put me in a situation where I can create something new? Maybe it's that you can, for example, when it comes to relationships, create new dynamics. Like that has been one of the most exciting parts of my life, to start seeing myself in a different light, and therefore also start seeing other people in different lights and change the dynamics between us, and to start getting excited about having people in my life that before I might have, overlooked. Because I can change those things. I can create a new structure in my head, new logic. It's probably not as obvious or as easy, in stuff like relationships or, your physical energy management. But in certain areas, it is very obvious. And those are your career, your vocation, living out your purpose. Those are the fields where you can start, where you can say, okay, let me not go where everybody else is going. Let me think about what would be a way that makes sense in our mind that, I might not have that many examples of yet, where I can create something that hasn't existed like this, yet. And it doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm going to create a product. It can be you work at a company and then you start building up like one project that would benefit the company, but that nobody else has thought about, right? Where everybody's working in, let's say, this field over here, and you create something over there. But because you do that, the entire company, profits from it, or your department, or your boss, or whatever it may be. So those are all things that we have to take under consideration, because it can just change our life overnight. And the more often you do this, the more you see, okay, I did the right choice. This actually helps me to create my INFJ epic life. I learned that this is the place where I thrive the most. It's those niche things. It's those places where a system hasn't been developed yet. And it's never like 1 or 0 kind of conversation. It's nothing like, okay, completely or not at all. It's just that we make decisions like this probably on a daily basis. And with every decision, there is a leaning into part. Am I going to lean more into something that isn't completely established, or am I going to lean into something that, has been established more, where most people are good at, where a system has already been created at, and so on. Every little decision. It can even be from the way you create a dish. Let's say you invite friends, and then it's a question of, okay, am I going to do something that everybody is doing, that everybody's tried 1,000 times, or am I going to try something that is rather unique and where I can use my personal understanding of things and create something unique that people haven't even tried yet. Those are just like everyday examples, but you will not believe how much this will compound in your life. Every decision makes a little difference in your life, and every single decision gets you either closer to that INFJ epic life of yours or puts you further away from it. So when you look at your life, always ask yourself, what can I do that will lead me towards not only the path of least resistance, but towards your path of least resistance? What would be something that will make it easier for you? And I know it's scary at first because you think like, okay, certain things have been established. It's okay to work in a big company that, is known and people give me sort of credit for it because I am in that system. It's another thing to say, okay, I'm going to work for a startup, for example, and I don't have that, feedback from society of, oh, you're doing something great, because nobody knows that company. Nobody knows if this is something that will have success. Nobody knows if this is something exciting. But guess what? If you're convinced that you're doing something exciting, the people that you're telling this to, they will also be convinced that it's something exciting. So it's not about the other people. It's about how you feel about it. And this is something that you can practice because, of course, it takes courage. It takes courage to say no to a path that everybody's going along with and to say, I'm going to do my own thing. And don't get me wrong, this is not like me looking up from like a high horse and saying, oh, I did something unique. Why aren't you doing this? I'm part of the society too. We all live by certain rules that aren't spoken, that we're not even aware of. And just with time, I understand how many unspoken rules I have followed, how many things I've done in order to be part of the group, because it is in our psychology. We need to be part of a group. We need to feel like we're not being abandoned. Belonging is extremely important. But the thing is this, you can take calculated risks. And you can start small. But every single time you take a calculated risk and it rewards you, your self-confidence gets bigger. You understand that you can trust yourself. You understand that, yes, you can make those choices that nobody around you dares to make. You can be a pioneer. This is actually what it is, going into a field that hasn't been discovered to the complete maximum yet, and you get to do your own thing. You have freedom, you have space, and barely anybody will dictate your pace. And those are situations where the INFJ thrives in. So think about how you can implement this in your life. What is a small change that you can do that will make a difference in this way? Where can you take a calculated risk and prove to yourself that, yes, this is the right path for me? Trust me, the more you do this, you will start lighting up like you never believed possible. Remember, if you want some more guidelines how to create that whole environment and get the poster on the 5 pillars to an INFJ epic life, and if you want to learn more about the concept of really getting those step-by-step strategies done and changing your life, then get the INFJ epic life audio guide. All the information you find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then watch the video why the INFJ is slower than most, but why that's a good thing.